without further ado, Michael, take it away.
All right. All right, guys. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate you taking the time. Like Alex said, my name is Michael Montgomery. We're going to be talking about app deployment, so specifically scalable app deployment, so not just one app, but if you have 1, 10 more apps. And so like he said, I work here as well. My name is Michael Montgomery. Implementation engineer is just a fancy way to say I deal with all of Apple's hoops to jump through, and Google's just a sneak, whatever. Doesn't matter. And so what I wanted to talk about and focus on was more the business product side, where Alex is going to focus more on the engineering side, and how Fastlane and some of the other pieces that we have were put into Victorious' existing content management system. And so of the business product, I want to talk about focus on 3 main sections. One, the roadmap, so kind of how we got to where we are now, why we chose the path that we took to get here, and maybe some points along the way that may be relatable to some other individuals or some businesses out there for you guys. 2 is scalability, so definitely a word that I got tired of hearing this past year, but definitely very relevant, especially for our business. So kind of go through some of the reasons and choices that we made and some of the outcomes from that. And then the third one's a quick one on just the industry, who would want this product, why it would apply to them, are we even solving a problem that needs to be solved, or are we just having fun with some cool stuff? Could be both. So, all right, so right into it. As far as the roadmap goes, I want to kind of show a timeline and reference it below to kind of how we got here. And so we initially started, which is a single app, but with the intention of having more, 1, 5, 10, 100 apps, maybe even more in the future. And so what we really wanted to do was define what we wanted in a sentence. And so as the purpose for what we built, which I'll go through at the bottom here in a minute, we decided that the best way to describe it was to provide an internal tool to build, maintain, deliver, and update all Victorious apps. So the Victorious can be replaced by any one of your guys' companies, like I said, but to focus on those 4 main words in their build, we wanted a way to be able to get our teams internal to Victorious, a way to help demo existing apps or iterate on those apps without it going live in a easy user-facing process or system. Second, be able to maintain them. So once you create them, a way to edit them easily without having to go to a number of different engineers through email, Slack, Jira, any of the following. We wanted a real central location to maintain it. Third was Fastlane, so that's kind of the focus of the topic of tonight's topic, but that's the actual delivery of it. So how we package up everything that we have saved and configured and said, cool, this is good, let's send it up for either an update or launch or whatever it may be, to both Apple and Google, so packaging everything up, and then updating all of them, so the continuous cycle of the build, maintain, deliver, and then update happens every 2 weeks, depending on sprints or whenever updates come out. So to be able to do that in a real easy flow. And so from that purpose right there, we kind of took, if you break it into 2 pieces of software, we found 2 requirements that we needed to reach it. So there's a lot of granular details in numbers 1 and 2, but just as a high level, we initially knew that we needed a central location for all our app data. And so out of that came VAMS, what we call Victorious App Management System. And I'm not going to pretend to take credit. Mr. Leachy Peach from Lawrence Leach right there. He was definitely a huge piece into what the second part would be Fastlane. And so if we kind of look at the timeline below, kind of shows maybe the past year since I've been here. And I've marked maybe a couple of these spots that we felt that would be good benchmarks, or they became benchmarks as to how we could test the system. So originally, in February, we decided we need VAMs, we needed some central location to store all this. With the intention of April, we were going to launch our first app. And so the first app was done manually, not a problem. We discovered a lot, learned a lot. I was in the trenches for the next couple of months, kind of figuring out every little piece that I needed to go to make this process fulfilled and complete. And then we knew that from April to September, we launched probably about 5 apps. We were going to be manual, we were going to be learning a lot, trying to discover what we needed in order to make VAMs, bring VAMs up to speed for the potential September. So I put September in there because I definitely have probably about 10 or 12 gray hairs specifically due to that month or the month prior. But we went from essentially February 1 app, April about 5 more apps, so about 6 apps total, to 50 more apps in September. And so in the month of probably about August going into September, we were expected to have 56 live apps in the store. And so that jump, that leap, definitely took VAMs and escalated it into what it needed to be, I guess. And well, that's why Lawrence is the man. And so from there, we then needed a way to help deliver all these 50 plus apps. We're now at about 100. And so that's what Fastlane came in. It was the actual vehicle to help deliver all the information we needed from VAMs, which stored all the data. So from there, we come back a year later to February, right about now. So we're at about 100 apps, and we've done a lot of work on both VAMs and Fastlane, helping to, really helping all aspects of the business here, but really making this process as painless as possible, because it definitely was pretty painful in the beginning, and I know how responsive or not responsive engineers can be to emails. So it was really good to not have to do that. And so just kind of breaking it down, maybe before VAMs and Fastlane, and I put just VAMs and Fastlane is when it came to be up until now in the future. Before we kind of had a fragmented system where data was here and there, it was in an email, I sent this over to this guy, it was a copy-paste error, all this stuff we had to just gather and find a way to organize it in some way. And from there, we definitely found a lot of dependencies of, I'm out of town, I can't do this. Again, copy paste, I don't know what happened here, I just don't want to do it. Not right now. And and it became unreliable and definitely error prone. It was just strange that I had to email a backend guy on a Friday night to like insert one row with like 5 pieces of information. I was like, okay, that's cool. And then it'll be Tuesday afternoon and it was there. I'm like, there should be a faster way for that. And then so before that, that's kind of how it was before. We took all those learnings, moved them into what would be VAMs and Fastlane now, again, where we store the data and how we deliver it all. And so it was great because what happened was we took all that fragmented data, everything that was broken up, put it nice and neatly into our CMS that we have right now, our content management system. So that was able to store our data. We were able to edit it, make new, delete as we wanted without having to contact maybe anyone from engineering. We kind of had a platform for that. And Fastlane, the second part of it, runs locally on my machine. So in the future, we can, maybe get Jenkins box. We can have it running outside. We can parallelize it, do whatever you want with it. But I was able to test it and run it and kind of see all the work I had done being done by something else. And so it was really good to kind of see line by line a computer do a better job than I could ever do. And then second part of that, it's highly scalable. I mean, once we get to one in there, right now they run one after another, but you can run maybe bulk or batches of 20 at a time. It lets me at least run it in the background without me having to select this and that and move in between and something happens, errors. So it definitely made it, saved me and a lot of guys on my team, saved us a lot of time. A lot of time that was just tedious that we were able to put into VAMs and Fastlane. And then the last one, just consistent results. It's just really nice to be able to see everything happen right before my eyes without having to wait and stop. I can kind of run a batch, see what happens, see where the failures and successes are. So you get consistent results, consistency just every time, as far as updates go. And then just a quick thing on cost. I mean, that was a huge, I think, incentive to move towards VAMs and Fastlane world. Prior to, I mean, we had, for launches, we had 2-hour setup, which is kind of like just manual, tedious stuff to be able to set up keys and whatnot. And then 48-hour turnaround, I say that could be 48 hours to now whatever, how many hours. That's emailing the guy, making sure he gets back to you. And there's a 2-line didn't read thread that no one wants to read, and I have to, it's just email correspondence never really worked out. And the 30-minute update, there was just a lot of tedious sitting in front of Xcode, making sure everything ran good, all the profiles and blah, 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 and everything worked, and then having to move on to the next one. And so it was very time-consuming where I couldn't really do something else while I was doing submissions. And then fast forward to VAMs Fastlane, we cut that into a quarter by eliminating some of the initial setup, and the turnaround, there's no turnaround now. I mean, we get what we want when we want it, right in front of us. And the updates, I can build and submit an app in 8 minutes now, and they just move on to the next one. So I can queue up like 80 of them and just go to sleep, wake up, and everything's there. So I still need a job, by the way. So I'm really done. Okay, and then so the second part I want to talk about a little bit, obviously scalability. So if we live in this world right here on the left, which is how we started, one app, we could do it manually, it's not a problem. That may be how many of you or some of you people you know are at, just one app, not a big deal. The issue that we ran into is that we knew we had to get to 100 plus apps, and it had to be automatic. We'd have to reduce some of the issues we had on the left to the right, and so definitely engineering hours outside of client updates. I didn't want to have to keep bugging client teams or backend teams to help with something that I knew could be solved with like a platform. So that was a big problem. Again, like I said, like the fragmented release process, no one kind of knew when things would do. It was hard to promise timing on this will be live then, and it will take this long to help build. It was something more of an SLA. I wanted to help provide that, and it couldn't, or was difficult. And then third, probably the biggest one, gathering and storing app information. like I said, it was just everywhere in emails, in Word docs, in Google Docs, and I told you this over Slack kind of thing. And then fast forward to where we are now, 100 plus apps. We're just about at 100. I would say now I'm at 98. But the goal is that we want to move past that. We want to not see a number as much of an issue as we did between 1 and 5 and 50. That 1 to 150 to 200 should be fairly quick or fairly easy to attain. And so again, reduce engineering hours spent, and more importantly, maybe the actual trajectory of where we want to go. Again, if we want to do 500 apps in 6 months, we shouldn't freak out like we did between 5 and 50. Optimize the release process. I mean, we continue to do that to help everyone understand where something is in the process. As updates come from the client, and we want to be able to articulate that. It'll be live in the store in 5 days with Apple, immediate with Android. And then the goal, honestly, was to make it a self-serve platform. So as self-serve as you can imagine. Anyone who could log into a web browser should be able to, in the future, hopefully, get as much of this done as possible. Okay, and then with the scalability factor, we're always continuing to improve on that, right? And so what I did was I kind of took the premise of like 100 plus apps, which is what we are now, what we're going to keep at, or what we will be, and have the plan of every 2 weeks, every sprint, have a release. But they may not happen. We may not have one for a month, but to plan for that so that if we had to get 200 apps out for an update that needed them immediately, we had a way to do that, same day. And so in that, we found I kind of found 3 buckets that this entire process could live in. The first one, I think, of the ranked order here, so I think the first one's the most important, reduce time to ship. I mean, I think anything you could do to help get that app out, whether it's launch or update, the fastest or faster or improve the process even more is gold. And so that's what we did to begin with, and that's what we're going to continue to do. Second is to optimize the release process. So the 1 and 2 kind of go together. As you reduce time to ship, as it takes less and less effort, less and less people to ship out 100, 150, 500 apps. You also want to make sure that the release process for maybe people that are new to the company or not sure, know when things are due, this happens, it'll take X amount of hours for this to happen, this many days to get approval. If there's an update, you come to me, it'll take this long for you to get your clients or your creators' app out into the store. And so those kind of feed off each other, I think, and help each other get better. And then the third one's more the fun. That's continued development. There's a lot of stuff with Fastlane specifically that you can do that will really, really, really help so much of the process outside of just getting the apps out. There's things like helping with screenshots so you can generate screenshots immediately. There's a lot of ways that you can help. I think there's a section you can query against the iTunes store so you can see all your apps, where the status is for them, anything like reviews. So there's a lot of cleanup stuff that we can do that'll just make the product even more robust. And then the last slide here is the industry. So this is kind of just my thoughts having looked back, I guess, after like a year of this. And so the graph on the side is pretty generic, but it's just mobile apps downloads in millions. So if you compare where we are now, 2015, or where we were 2015, looking into 2016 and 2017 as projections, I mean, obviously downloads aren't going to go down, ironically, but 179 billion projected were in 2015, up to 2017, 268 billion. And just the idea of the sheer number of downloads that are expected and the sheer number that, like, as you grow with 100, 500 apps, that grows alongside with it, that as people download more, I feel like we're going to have to get more updates out. There's going to be more of a desire for a product like this. And so for who, I mean, this is just kind of my feeling, who this would be appropriate for. I say releasing a minimum of 5 updates a month. We could fudge those numbers, but if you're releasing 1 update once a year, once every 6 months, it's not really going to be as beneficial. It might even be not cost effective for you to develop this entire system. But if you're doing 100 updates a month, if you're doing 200 updates a month, and you have to remember, for every app you inject into this process, it has the launch update plus every update after, so it grows really fast. And also location of clients. So if you're, not from clients, but if you work with people who are on the move, or you're on the move, it makes it a lot easier to have a central location for all this information. And then if you're platform minded, so if you want to move towards a platform, not 1 update or one app a year, if you really want to grow as a platform, I think this is a great tool for you to have. And then the why for the guys up top, I mean, honestly, reduce operational costs. We took that down so much just with the introduction of AMS, especially Fastlane. It makes everything cheaper, faster, more efficient, more self-serve, and I don't think anyone in this room would ever argue against that. Second, anytime, anywhere, it goes along with the location. I mean, you can do this anytime, you can put it anywhere, you can have it available to anyone. And then scalable. As a platform, it can grow, you can grow with it. You can continue to iterate on it, and it really provides you a way to get all of your apps, as many apps as you would ever want, updated in a process that makes sense without you having to pull your hair out like that manually. So that's the business product side of it. And I'm going to turn it over to Alex to do a little bit of the engineering, geeky stuff, so you guys can. So, all right.
All right. So, how's everybody doing? Nobody fallen asleep yet?
Show it to us.
Okay, hold on a second.
Show it to us.
Hold on a second. I gotta figure out how to get out of here. Oh, there we go. Exit. All right, and here we go. Cool. So, living in the Fastlane. So basically, Fastlane is the tool that we've used to make that happen, to automate our release process, to go from hours of manual work to pretty seamless process that takes several hours, especially that we have 100 apps in store. Michael told you about the use case and how we've used that at Victoria. So I'm gonna tell you how you can do it, at your own company or in whatever you're doing. So here's the plan. So I'm going to tell you what the Fastlane is. There's 3 things that you're going to learn from this presentation. One of them, what Fastlane is, why do you want to use Fastlane altogether, and how you would go about this if this is something that makes sense for you to do. So, well, let's start with the first one. So what's Fastlane? So Fastlane is the set of different tools. So there's a lot of different tools, and they all combine into a tool set. That tool set is called Fastlane. There's a lot of different tools, and every tool has a funky name. But for example, there's the SI tool that deals with provisioning profiles. There's, for example, Snapshot, take snapshots of the app. There's, for example, Deliver, that tool delivers app to the store or to whatever source you want to push it to, whether it's going to be TestFlight or Hockey or anything like that. GM is basically a tool that builds the app, and you can specify any way you want to build the app, whether you want to pass certain special parameters in there, or you can build it in a variety of different ways. So that's basically all combines into Fastlane, one tool that downloads a lot of those things that you can later on use to automate anything. And you can automate anything starting from deployment. This is our primary use case here. To build process, for example, you may build 3 different versions of your app, one for staging, one for development, one for production. You can use Fastlane for this. You can automate taking screenshots. This whole process of taking screenshots can be automated. You can even run tests with that. So if your use case where, for example, you have an automated test suite, if you want to run that test suite before you push the app to the store, which generally seems like a good idea to do that, so you can also do that kind of stuff with Fastlane. I get this question all the time, where why would we want to do this, and wouldn't a shell script work just fine? And the answer, yeah. So definitely shell script or any other script would work just fine. But there's 3 major reasons why you would want to look into this solution. So one of them, it's free, open source, community supported project. So basically open source community, there's a lot of contributors from all over the world. They contribute back to it, and they give feedback for this tool to improve. You can go, you can submit the issues. You can have basically other people working for you for free in some way. Second thing is maintained by Twitter. So as long as Twitter is not going away, which I don't think is happening near soon, we're good. So we're good there. And the last piece is that there's a DRY principle, which stands for don't repeat yourself. If you would want to fall in love with Bash and just write a lot of those scripts on your own, fine. But then if you think globally, then you would need to implement your process. Some other company with similar needs would need to basically write the same exact tool set to do that, and then collectively we all just do the same work. Whereas this could be, we could use the open source solution and just solve this problem once, and then just use those things as a library, so we don't have to re-implement the same thing all over again. All right, so now we talked about why, how, why and what. Now we moved into how. So here's how you do it. First of all, you need Ruby. So if you're running on Mac, you probably already have Ruby installed. If you don't, you, for example, maybe running on some Linux distribution, you can head out to that link that describes how to install Ruby on your machine, in on variety of different platforms. That link links to a book that I wrote that has those instructions basically in it. I'll post those slides after the presentation, so you have that link and you can do that. And then you install Fastlane as a Ruby gem by just running gem install Fastlane. So Fastlane is written in Ruby, and Ruby packages are called gems, and this is basically a bunch of Ruby code that comes to your machine in the form of a package. So once you did that, then you have this awesome command line tool called Fastlane. So you cd into your project, and your project directory is whatever directory that has the Xcode project in there. So however you want to structure a project, it doesn't matter. As long as you go to the place that has .xcode project file, you're good to go. So you run Fastlane in it, and it will walk you through. It will ask you several questions like, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to push your app to the store? You want, what is your username for the store? What's your password? What's your social security? Where do you live? And it's not going to ask you those questions, but it's going to ask you some stuff about how you want to set your project. So then, once it does it, all that stuff is going to live inside a Fastlane folder. So there's going to be Fastlane folder. There's going to be a bunch of files in it, and all those files in combination. It's basically a combination of images, your screenshots, metadata for for example, for all your apps metadata like description, category, and stuff. And there's going to be a lot of Ruby code. And this is a main kind of file. It's called fast file. So we have gem file, make file. Now we have fast file. So where you basically describe things that you want to run as lanes. So those lanes correspond to basically tasks. So here we define platform, iOS. Here's the description where we can define, it's all Ruby code. So you define description of your task. You specify a lane, which basically creates the deploy task. And then you put all your code in here. And Fastlane itself provides you with, it has an API that you can call to do all those things like run tests, push apps to the store, and for example, do something with the metadata. So once we've learned what fast file is, now we're going to learn about slow file. I'm totally kidding with you. There's no such thing as slow file, but there's app file. So app file is basically where you put information about your app. And there are several things here. So main three ones is app identifier, which is com.mycompany.myapp or anything you want to put in. So all that stuff basically is a bundle identifier of your app. Then you can get your team name from Xcode and team ID, which is an alphanumeric ID of your team on iTunes Connect. Then screenshots. So basically you go, here's how you go about screenshots. You put them in the folder. Do you have any question?
Real quick, if you change that information in the app file, does it change the actual Xcode project?
No, it basically has to match what's in your Xcode project. And well, doesn't necessarily have to match what's in your Xcode project, but basically whatever project is here, that's that information will be used in order to build the app. So for example, if this is, in our case, we submit apps under different bundle identifiers. So we have around 100 apps in the store, and some of them have different bundle identifiers. So what we actually do, this becomes a variable in our case. So whatever you put in here will be in the binary that you're gonna build and push to the store. So it doesn't necessarily have to like.
So it's not auto-populating that information for you. You're inputting that info.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But it should match.
If you have one app that you push to the store, then it should match whatever is in your Xcode project. But it's not going to go back to your Xcode project and change that to this.
Right.
Doesn't.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. So screenshots. The way you go about them, you put them in a screenshots folder under a Fastlane folder, and they have to be namespace by the language. So there are different screenshots, different languages. Now metadata, it lives inside the metadata folder, and then categories should match Apple provided list of categories. So if you basically go there, this is that list. Let me just pump it up. So this is this list, and they need to match that. So like apps.catalog, for example, food and drink apps need to match app.food and drink. Healthcare fitness is the fitness apps. As long as your selection matches one of those options, once you push the app to the store, it will choose that category for you. But one gotcha here that they gotta match these things. So and namespace by language as well. All right. So once you've done all that stuff, Fastlane init will generate a lot of stuff for you. But once you customize it to your needs, you run Fastlane iOS deploy that basically corresponds to this guy, where we define our platform iOS and the task deploy. So once you do that, that basically starts the process. And there's going to be a lot of log output in your terminal, and it's going to tell you what it does. It's going to pull down provisioning profiles and start building the app and sign it and push it to the store, and then it says you're good, so that your app is in the store now. But now we're getting into a place where we need to submit multiple apps. So Fastlane is not really built for submitting one app. It's vice versa. So it's not really built for submitting multiple apps. It's built for submitting just one app. And the way we got it the way we made it so it submits multiple apps is by using environment variables. Bless you. So basically the way it works is that we use environment variables in all of those Ruby files to switch up parameters for every build. So every build might have different bundle identifier, different team ID, or some other stuff like that. And what we do, we basically set those variables before we run it, and we run it, then we reset those variables to the next app and run it again. And that's how we have Michael and Montgomery to push the button and then go drink beer. So
what was that? What's that right balance temporary environment?
So this is the gem that we extracted. It's called temporary environment. So what this gem does is this guy. So you basically install this gem by doing gem install temporary environment, and then what you could do is you can use this class called temporary environment and the method called with environment variable, and you provide a name of this environment variable and the value that you want it to be. And then there's a block of code, and that's where you put all your Fastlane stuff in. So basically it makes it so inside that block, this variable with this name is set to this value. And in our case, we are setting bundle identifier, path to the icon, the app icon, and the team name and team password, all those kind of things. So basically, Fastlane itself provides you with several variables, environment variables that you can switch up. Two of them are Fastlane team ID, and another one is Fastlane team name. But nothing really prevents you from setting up your own environment variables, and that's what we do. So we set environment variable, we call it like bundle ID, and we basically set it to a bundle ID for a specific app. Then we run through it, build it, submit it, and then do it again, and do it over and over and over again. So that's basically, everything I had for the first two, and now let's just recap and see what we've learned. So we talked about three things. We talked about what Fastlane is. Fastlane is a set of tools that helps you to automate your deployment process, running tests, taking screenshots, and doing all this stuff that you don't want to do manually. Then why do you want to do this? Because we don't want to repeat ourselves. It's a community support project. It's free, and Twitter is backing it up right now, so it's pretty solid. And then how you go about this? You basically download the gem, do Fastlane init, and then configure a bunch of files, and then run Fastlane iOS deploy. It also works for Android too. So if you have both iOS and Android apps, you can also do that. All right, so now that you learned all that stuff, now what? So there's a Fastlane.tools site. You can go there. There's some information about the Fastlane itself, what it does, what each tool does. Most of that stuff lives on GitHub though. So this is pretty active, so they merged all individual repos together, and you can go into one place, you can ask questions, you can make issues. People are really responsive there. So it's all open source. You can literally just like read the code, understand what it does. If you don't like something, you can submit a pull request back. And at the end of the day, that's pretty much it. So say hi, me on Twitter, I'm FSPRORU, and Michael on LinkedIn. I'm not going to read that link, but it's going to be in slides. And with that, thank you. What's up?
Do you know if they're going to add this to Fabric? Since Twitter owns it.
They should.
Yeah, it seems like this would fit really well.
Seems like it's a good idea.
Same presentation, one question. Does Fastlane have any permissions? I mean, for example, we want to have, let's say, developer responsible for start testing, QA responsible for publishing, let's say, staging build, product responsible for submission. Is it possible to split permissions?
Yeah, I think so. So it depends on how, it depends on your use case, especially, for example, if you have QA. Well, like Michael said before, nothing prevents you, after you basically implemented all those tasks that basically go in, submit to prod and do QA build, nothing really prevents you from getting the Jenkins box, putting it out there and creating tasks there, and then having...
Okay, so it's not in the box?
No. You have to do something outside of that. There's no notion of like a user in Fastlane itself.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's a lot of other tools that you can do. You can use, like Jenkins is one of them that immediately comes to mind.
Yeah, actually, it's my second question. Is why you choose Fastlane? Let's say, right now I would request that you have different continuous integration for backend, let's say, and different, actually, Fastlane for iOS, for Android, right?
So the way we actually have it is that our continuous integration server, so we use Jenkins, and we have Jenkins boxes to run our backend tests for the backend project. For iOS project, we have a different project. So we run tests there, and we have jobs to configured so they run tests on every commit. So all the building, running tests and building for internal use happens outside of Fastlane. So what we use Fastlane specifically in Victorious is we use it for automating the app submission. So every time you need to go in and upload new screenshots and type in metadata and doing all that stuff, for a variety of apps, and especially every app has an update. So let's say we have an update, we need to resubmit all those, how many apps we have in store currently. So that's what we use Fastlane for.
Okay, I agree. We're going to do something like this. We have pipelines for tests, for everything.
Mhm.
It's another continuous integration is OCD, but Fastlane we're going to use just this efficiency.
Yeah, but you can use Fastlane too. So instead of having Jenkins and have different build configurations, you could use Fastlane to automate your build process and running tests.
Yes, but if you have dependency, let's say integration test between backend and client, and you want to, let's say, when backend is updated, start to test for plan,
Ah, right.
then
Yeah.
become available.
Yep. Yeah. That's where you need something like Jenkins or any. There's a lot of CIs out there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any more questions? Yeah.
Do you haven't been submitting automatically to the store from this?
You mean like
So
continuous
it's
deployment kind of
submitted
thing?
to the App Store
Yeah.
automatically.
We trigger that process.
We
So.
upload it, but then we manually trigger it. That's what it's saying. That's what I was
Okay, that's what you asked. Sorry, do you ask like whether?
Like
From the
this
store?
process, does this actually like push it up there so that it like is waiting for review?
We do what he said. It's basically we just upload it to the store,
Yeah.
and then we have the manual step of basically going in and make sure that everything is all right and push the button. Push the button to submit to the store.
We have a human factor in there. We
To
don't
approve.
to approve it.
Yeah.
To make it go live so people can download it. But this thing you showed us uploads it automatically. Yes.
Yeah, but it can
Makes it go live.
it can also do that too.
It could, exactly.
It could make it go live too, and
Yeah, because it's just either auto
Exactly.
approve it or.
But we just
Yeah.
chose to make it
No,
manual.
that's
You
fine.
can set that in Fastlane, like manual.
Mhm.
There's like a date, either launch automatically when it's approved, or set a date.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, you can also do that. Like for example, I was in a different startup before, and we had one app submitting to 3 different platforms. I mean, 3 different staging environments. So acceptance, what's that? Staging, production, and we had Fastlane to basically submit 3 apps, and what we've used acceptance and staging for just test flight, so we didn't really turn that switch on. But then, what we could have do even there on a smaller scale, even here, is to basically say, go ahead and push it out and submit it to the store right away. But we just have, a person there because there's a lot of different apps, and those different apps have a lot of different things. So just basically double check it, have a human there to take a look at that stuff.
And are you doing the same thing on the Android side?
On Android, our Fastlane integration project was done after the Android process has already been automated. And for Android, I mean, the APIs for Android allow you to do submissions a lot easier. So there's no like review process. You don't need to submit it and wait for it and do that kind of stuff. On Android, we basically have our own Python scripts written, and they're already there. They work. They don't break. That's good. So that's why we just left it over there. But that being said, like we could have basically unified those two things by using the same tool. Yeah, definitely. So I guess once they break, we will go and implement that stuff.
Give it time.
Yep. Yep. Have it to decay. Cool. Any more questions?
Are you guys gonna sell VAMs to other institutions?
Lawrence, do you want to take that question, Lawrence?
The guy who would have answered that left. Are
VAMs as a
Are
service.
other companies doing something like VAMs? Did you consult with any other companies to see what they were doing? No, we did not consult with them. I didn't consult with anybody else.
Yeah, Lawrence didn't consult with them.
So what, can we see what the internal, is it like an internal tool? Like, is there a GUI or is it all command line?
It's a GUI. It's a web
Are
interface.
we allowed to see what it looks like? Or? I don't know.
I can show it to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
It-
realize that the basis of this talk is about outside of VAMs, right? It's the process. The VAMs, we'll just think of this as just a centralized database, and then Fastlane just literally logs in, pulls down the data, inserts it into the binary, then uploads it, and then goes on and does the next one.
So it's not that interesting to see.
That's basically what I'm saying. Really what he's talking about, the magic is in Fastlane.
It's a secret sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Going once. Going twice. Sold. Okay. So that's good. Thanks, guys. We're gonna take like quick break.